Welcome to this introductory video on the UCC School of Law's LLM in International Human Rights Law and Public Policy. My name is Dr. Doug Cubey and I'm the Programme Director for this course. What is an LLM? An LLM is an advanced postgraduate law degree which provides you with the opportunity to specialise in an area of your interest of legal theory or practice. It's not required to have a law background or an undergraduate law degree to complete this course, and indeed the diversity of our students helps strengthen the debates and discussions that we have in class. So why would you want to study human rights law? Unfortunately, we see on a daily basis the impact of massive human rights violations all across the world. Whether that's arising from armed conflict and the population displacement and refugees that arise as a result, or whether it's the challenges that we all face as a result of the climate emergency and global heating, or across so many societies, the gender inequalities and the fact that people are not treated equally. These are all areas which human rights law has very specific provisions regarding. And the study of human rights law provides a way for you to understand the mechanisms of accountability and how to influence public policy decisions that governments and other stakeholders may be taking. So why should you choose this course in particular? Well, first of all, there's a wide variety of module choices that you can choose. And I'll explain this in a minute. The different strands or learning pathways that you can take based on your own specific interests in human rights law. We have a diverse student body from people who are coming from legal practice, who are wanting to expand their knowledge and understanding of, say, Irish domestic human rights law, to people who are coming from perhaps an international development or international relations perspective, and who are thinking about working in an international context, perhaps for the United Nations or for an intergovernmental organisation. And the different perspectives, the different nationalities, and the different professional experiences that the students bring to the class is one of the strengths that throughout our discussions and debates that we have. And we have small-scale seminar-style teaching. So rather than having large lectures, as you might have had at undergraduate level, at postgraduate level, their classes and seminars are interactive with group work activities so that you can engage in a much more proactive way in the learning process. And so much of the learning takes place on a peer-to-peer level. Because of the diversity and experience of the students on the course, you learn huge amounts from the interactions that you have with each other. And finally, we also have strong links to the practice of human rights. My own background is in human rights and humanitarian protection, so for more than 10 years before I returned to academia, I was working in human rights. And it's a core element of this program is to see how can we ensure that you are working or your studies are going to help prepare you for working in human rights and the practice of human rights in due course. The course is structured into thirds effectively. So out of the 90 credits, you have 25 credits which go to core modules. You have 35 credits, which are the optional modules that you can choose from a list of options. And then the final third of 30 credits is your research dissertation, which is a 15,000 word piece of research that you undertake in conjunction with a supervisor within the School of Law. So we'll look briefly at the core modules first. And the aim of the 4 core modules is to ensure that everyone has a strong basis in the practice or the knowledge of international human rights law and public international law, so the interactions between states that can create law. We also have our clinical module, the Human Rights Law and Practice module, which you undertake in the second semester. And the aim of this module is to look at the skills required to practice human rights. So, for example, what are the different methods that can be used to influence public policy, from strategic litigation to developing policy briefs to media work? And another core part of this module is looking at project development. How does one identify a particular project that could then be applied for to receive funding? And then once you apply for that funding, what is the process that you go through to identify your project budget, the resources that will be required, So by the end of this module, everyone will have worked within a group to develop a human rights project proposal, which would potentially be eligible for funding. We then have a range of optional modules, and I won't go through all the different optional modules, but what we've done is we've grouped them into various learning pathways. And you're not required to follow one of these learning pathways. It's like an a la carte menu. You can choose from the different ones. However, there are 5 key areas where we find that many students have a particular focus. So it might be someone has a particular focus in international law. So is thinking about working potentially in an international context. And so they may want to be taking the modules on international children's rights or refugee and forced displacement law. Alternatively, someone may be thinking about human rights in the domestic Irish context, and so may be looking for courses on the family and the law, or mental capacity law in Ireland. We also have a close partnership with colleagues in the criminology department. So if people are interested in criminal justice issues, we have modules in both penology and criminology, so that someone who is interested in learning more about how human rights work within our criminal justice system, you'll be able to focus in on a variety of modules that cover those areas. Likewise, we have close connections with our colleagues in the environmental law section of the school. And so there's a number of modules that you can take relating to both Irish and international environmental and climate change law and policy. And the final learning pathway that we have set out relates to the role of corporations. The power of transnational corporations can be greater than some poorer states or smaller states. So how do you ensure corporate social responsibility? What are some of the obligations that may arise for a non-state actor, such as a transnational corporation? And then, as I mentioned, the final third of your degree is the dissertation project, where you will identify a particular area where you will research, both from a legal perspective and also from a practical perspective, to see what are the key human rights issues and questions that arise. And so you can tailor that dissertation into your own specific interests. When we look at the career opportunities, we have nearly 100 alumni from this program, since this program has been running for 9 years now. And what we see is that people end up working in a wide variety of jobs, whether they're working in legal practice in Ireland, perhaps working within, say, the immigration or refugee field, or within corporate law firms. Some of the big law firms, we have alumni who are working there and using their knowledge of human rights law within the commercial context. We then have colleagues and alumni who've moved into academia, who've decided that actually after completing a master's, they want to continue their studies and gain in-depth knowledge through undertaking a PhD. We then have alumni who are working in civil society organisations, both within the Irish context and internationally. And finally, we have colleagues who are working in intergovernmental organisations, so the United Nations in Geneva or intergovernmental organisations in Brussels. So there's a wide variety of career opportunities, and the LLM in human rights law and public policy provides a springboard for many of these different types of career paths. So finally, some of the practicalities. The entry requirements for the degree are, first of all, a second class honours, grade 1, in a primary honours law degree. So that's at level 8. Or, as I mentioned, you don't need to have a law degree to be accepted onto this program. So if you have a relevant third level educational qualification or professional experience, you are also eligible to apply for this program. So full details are available on the UCC website, and the link is there. And also, we have our colleagues in the postgraduate office in the School of Law. So our colleagues Leah Neville and Kathleen McCartney, and they're there to provide information and advice. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to either email the postgraduate office in the School of Law or to contact me directly from my email address, which was at the start of this presentation. I look forward to seeing some of you in due course. Thank you very much.